One evening, I met a man who confessed, "I stopped pleasuring myself because I believed it was making me weak." Little did he know that very myth was slowly robbing him of his vitality. That single belief is one of many that silently erode the health and happiness of older men. These myths aren't just misconceptions, they're barriers holding you back from a fuller, healthier life. I'm Dr. Blake Morgan. I've been a board-certified urologist for over 30 years. We live in a culture where older men are often told to disappear, to fade into the background, to become invisible. And one of the quietest casualties of this cultural script is sexual health, particularly the myths surrounding masturbation. These aren't just small misunderstandings. They're deeply rooted, damaging beliefs that can change the entire course of a man's life. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on 7 masturbation myths that are silently destroying older men. Not with judgment, but with truth. I'll walk you through what I've seen in my clinic, what the research really says, and why these myths have such a powerful grip on so many lives. Because sometimes, reclaiming your health starts by unlearning the lie. Myth 1. Masturbation is just for the young. When George walked into my office, he looked like any other 73-year-old man. Polo tucked in, leather shoes polished. But there was something about his eyes, the quiet pain behind them. "I haven't touched myself in over 20 years, he said quietly, as if confessing a crime. "I just figured I was too old for that sort of thing." That's the first myth, and one of the most common. That masturbation is a phase, a passing curiosity reserved for the teenage years, like acne or awkward dates. Once you hit a certain age, especially after 60, it's treated as inappropriate, indulgent, even immature. But here's what the science says. The human need for pleasure, intimacy, and release doesn't disappear with age. In fact, in many cases, it becomes more important. As testosterone levels decline naturally, the body looks for ways to maintain balance. Regular masturbation can help improve blood flow, reduce tension, promote better sleep, and even reduce the risk of prostate issues. More than that, it's about maintaining a relationship with your body, a sense of ownership, dignity, control. I asked George a simple question: "Do you feel disconnected from your body?" He looked at me for a long moment and whispered, "I feel like I don't even know it anymore." What he really meant was, I've abandoned myself. Because someone told me I was too old to feel good. But there's no expiration date on self-worth, and there's no age limit on pleasure. The danger of this myth isn't just physical neglect, it's psychological exile. It tells men to bury a part of themselves, as if aging means becoming less human. And the longer you believe it, the harder it becomes to remember who you were before you started fading. So the question is, have you stopped not because your body told you to, but because someone else did? Myth 2. Masturbation is harmful to your health. I remember a patient named Leonard, 67 years old, tall, still strong from a life of construction work. He sat on the edge of the exam table, arms crossed tight. "My father used to say it would drain your strength, that you'd go blind, lose your hair, ruin your heart. Do you believe that?" I asked. "I don't know," he shrugged. "But I've avoided it my whole life, just in case." Just in case. That phrase has haunted more of my patients than I can count. Just in case it's bad, just in case it hurts me, just in case it makes me less of a man. And the truth, not only are these fears unfounded, they're completely backward. Masturbation, when done in moderation and without obsessive compulsion, is incredibly beneficial to the body. It releases dopamine and oxytocin, those feel-good neurotransmitters that reduce stress and improve mood. It promotes relaxation, helps with sleep, and even boosts the immune system in subtle ways. There's no evidence that it depletes testosterone. In fact, brief surges in testosterone levels have been recorded post-ejaculation. There's no link to vision loss. No scientific proof that it shrinks you, drains you, or makes you weak. What it does do, it keeps blood flowing, it keeps tissues responsive. It sends a message to your nervous system that you are still alive, still here, still connected to your desires. I asked Leonard, "When was the last time you felt fully present in your body?" He looked down at his hands. "Not since my 40s, he said. "That's what fear does. It steals time. it steals presence. It turns your body into an enemy instead of a home. So ask yourself, what myths are you still holding onto, just in case? Myth 3. Frequent masturbation causes sexual dysfunction. John was 62, divorced. Recently retired. I think I broke myself, he told me. Why do you say that? I asked. I started masturbating more after my divorce. But now I have trouble getting it up with a partner. I think I overdid it. This is where the story gets twisted. Many men believe that masturbation is like a finite resource, that if you use it up, you'll be left with nothing. That somehow pleasure by yourself steals pleasure from your future partners. Here's the truth. It's not masturbation itself that creates dysfunction. It's the context, the mindset, the compulsiveness, the expectations. When men use masturbation as their only outlet, especially in isolation, with unrealistic expectations, often fueled by pornography, they can desensitize themselves to real-life connection. But that's not because the act is wrong. It's because the habits around it become skewed. I told John, masturbation didn't break you. Shame and disconnection did. When done with awareness, when it's intentional, gentle, and respectful, masturbation can enhance your connection with a partner. It helps you understand your body. It helps you know what you like, what you don't. It teaches you to slow down, to listen. Erectile dysfunction is often more psychological than physical, especially in men under 75. Anxiety, fear of failure, performance pressure all play a bigger role than the physical act of self-pleasure. So no, masturbation didn't steal your performance, but the guilt you carry around it, that might have. If you can't explore yourself without fear, how can you expect to explore intimacy with someone else? Myth 4. Masturbation is a sign of loneliness or failure. The shame hit Richard hardest at night. He was 69, a widower. His wife had passed 6 years ago after a long battle with Alzheimer's. They'd been high school sweethearts, married over 4 decades. I still feel married, he said to me once. Even now, I wear my ring. But the nights were hardest. Not just because the bed was empty, but because sometimes he touched himself. And every time he did, he'd cry afterward. I feel like I've betrayed her, he said, his voice barely a whisper. Like I'm failing at something. This is perhaps the most dangerous myth of all, that masturbation is a substitute for the real thing, and therefore a symbol of lack, that it means you're lonely, broken, or emotionally unwell. But this myth doesn't hold up under even the gentlest scrutiny. Here's what the truth looks like. Masturbation can be an act of healing, of remembrance, of reclaiming your body after grief, trauma, surgery, or loss. In fact, research shows that people in happy relationships still masturbate, not because their partner isn't enough, but because sexual connection with oneself is not a betrayal of intimacy, it's an extension of it. Richard wasn't broken. He was grieving, and grief doesn't erase the human need for touch. I asked him, if your wife could see you now, do you think she'd want you to feel shame, or would she want you to feel alive? He looked up at me, eyes glassy. Alive, he whispered. The myth that masturbation is a mark of failure keeps thousands of men trapped in guilt. But the truth, choosing to feel after everything you've lost, isn't failure, it's survival. And survival, in its truest form, often starts with choosing not to disappear. Myth 5. You should be able to just stop. After a certain age, Arnold was a pastor, 74, still preaching 3 Sundays a month. Still revered in his small community. But when he came to my clinic, he wasn't the confident, fatherly figure most people knew. He was shaking, quiet, sweating through his shirt. I need to stop, he said. It's sinful, I keep slipping. I feel like a hypocrite. Arnold had grown up with harsh teachings, that his body was a battlefield between righteousness and temptation, that pleasure was the devil's whisper. And so every time he masturbated, even in private, even respectfully, he spiraled into deep self-loathing. I've tried everything, he said, prayer, fasting, cold showers. But I keep going back. I looked him in the eyes and said the hardest thing a man like Arnold needed to hear. You're not addicted, you're human. The idea that older men should somehow outgrow masturbation is one of the most spiritually and psychologically damaging lies we tell. It creates a false ideal that with age comes detachment, that the body becomes irrelevant, that desire itself is unholy or juvenile. But let me be clear, masturbation is not a habit to grow out of. It's a form of connection. With your body, with your memory, with your peace. The act itself isn't the problem, it's the weaponized guilt that follows. Arnold was a spiritual man, but what he needed wasn't deliverance. He needed permission, permission to feel, permission to heal, permission to be a full human being, not a ghost in his own flesh. He cried that day, not because he was weak, but because, for the first time, someone told him it was okay to stop punishing himself. So if you've ever tried to just stop, ask yourself, are you trying to be healthy or trying to disappear? Myth 6, older men don't need sexual pleasure. ANYMOA. Roger was 82, a former engineer, proud grandfather, still sharp as a tack. "Doc," he said one day, with a kind of defiant grin, "I'm still kicking, but the world seems to think I'm already dead." He wasn't joking. Everywhere he went, TV ads, doctors' offices, even conversations with friends, he felt like his age had stripped him of his humanity, as if sexual pleasure was something for the young folks. "I still enjoy it," he said, "but I feel embarrassed. Like I'm not supposed to. Let me say this plainly, there is no age at which pleasure becomes irrelevant. There is no magical birthday where your need for touch, closeness, or sensuality suddenly expires. In fact, studies show that older adults who continue to engage in solo or partnered sexual activity report better mental health, stronger immunity, and improved self-esteem. Dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins. These chemical messengers don't retire when you turn 60, 70, or 80. But the danger of this myth goes deeper. It trains older men to detach from their bodies, to dissociate, to ignore signs of illness, to feel invisible. Roger once told me, if I bring up sex to my kids, they look at me like I've lost my mind. That isolation, that quiet dismissal, is a form of emotional abandonment, and men internalize it, so they go silent, they hide. They stop asking for help, and slowly they forget what it means to feel alive. The truth is simple, if you are alive, then your body still matters. If you are breathing, you are still worthy of pleasure. There is no dignity in denying your humanity. Myth 7, masturbation means something is wrong with you. The most heartbreaking stories are often the quietest. Elias was 71, no major medical issues, no surgeries, no diagnoses. He was physically healthy, but emotionally fractured. "I can't tell anyone I still do it," he said, "because I think they'd think I'm perverted." He used that word, perverted, as if touching one's own body with gentleness and presence was something monstrous. "I'm not even watching porn," he clarified. "I just need it. Sometimes I need to feel something. Anything." This is the 7th and final myth, the belief that masturbation is a symptom of something wrong, that needing touch means you're desperate, sick, depraved. But let me ask you something. Is a man hungry because something is wrong with him? Is a man thirsty because he's morally weak? Then why do we treat sexual need, especially solo sexual need, as something to be ashamed of? Elias was not broken. He was human. He was lonely. He was navigating life after retirement, after kids had grown, after friends had passed. And in the quiet of that new world, he found one way to feel human again. There's a reason it's called self-love. Because for many men, especially in older age, it's the only love they still have access to. I put my hand gently on Elias' shoulder and said, "You're not perverted, you're alive, and that's nothing to be ashamed of," he cried. Not because of the act itself, but because no one had ever said that to him before. Most men think the damage is physical, low testosterone, poor prostate health, declining libido. And yes, those are real. But in my experience, the real wounds are emotional. What's destroying older men isn't masturbation, it's the silence around it. It's the decades of being told, real men don't talk about this. It's the guilt that seeps into the skin like smoke, poisoning everything. It's the whispered shame, passed down like a curse. It's the belief that touching yourself means something inside you is broken. But the biggest twist, the very thing we've been told to hide, might be the thing that saves us. Not because masturbation is a miracle drug, not because it will reverse time or cure disease, but because when done consciously, with acceptance, it reconnects you to the thing men lose most with age, themselves. It's not about lust. It's about aliveness. And most importantly, it's about reclaiming the story of your own body before the world silences it for good. Here's what happens when you stop believing the myths. Men begin to look at themselves in the mirror without flinching. They talk to their sons about aging with honesty, not embarrassment. They bring their fears into the doctor's office instead of hiding them. They realize that masturbation is not a replacement for intimacy. It's a gateway to understanding what intimacy means for them now. I've seen marriages rekindle because one partner stopped hiding. I've seen men in their 70s stop apologizing for having desires. I've seen men cry big, body-shaking sobs, not because they're ashamed, but because someone finally told them it was okay. Okay to touch, okay to feel, okay to want. That is what healing looks like. Not perfection, not abstinence, just peace. Let's go back to the beginning. Remember Richard, the widower who cried after touching himself. He came in 6 months later, a little more upright, his eyes softer. I started sleeping on her side of the bed, he said. I don't feel like I'm cheating anymore. I feel like I'm remembering her, honoring what we had. But I also feel like I'm allowed to live. That's the lesson no one teaches us. Masturbation is not the opposite of masculinity. It's not the enemy of dignity. It's not a problem that needs to be solved. It's a conversation, a moment of presence, a form of listening to your body when the world wants you to go silent. So if you're an older man watching this, and you've been carrying these myths like chains around your neck, let this be the moment you set them down. You are not dirty, you are not shameful, you are not broken, you are still alive. And that alone means your body still deserves your kindness.